Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Elbows Tight Podcast. It's your host, Travis and John. John, how was that?
I thought it was really good. I enjoyed talking to someone my age, seeing where they're at, how they got there, and getting some tips on how I can continue to train.
Yeah, today we have Sergio Hernandez. He is a black belt down in San Diego, California, under Baret Yoshida, and he's been doing jiu-jitsu probably about, he said 20 years now.
Yeah.
So started at, what, 26?
He would have had to start around 24.
Yeah, 24.
Yeah.
And great conversation. He is a high-level competitor. He's competed in EBI, on UFC Fight Pass. He's does a lot of local competitions, and he loves competing. His insight on competing and why he does it is great for anyone. Sergio is probably the first person that every answer he gave, he made sure to kind of put it towards the beginning practitioner. He kept saying, he's like, for the beginner, for people who are just starting. I thought that was really nice because it really lends to kind of this idea of the podcast, right? We're making it for the beginning practitioner. So for him to go straight from the get-go and talk about the beginning practitioner was nice. So what are some of the things we covered, John?
We talked about some ways you can get ready for your competition, or at least the way he does it. I really liked how he has a specific goal to motivate him to continue training. Yeah. I mean, that's something even now I have to think about, right? Like, what's the end goal? I thought he hit on a couple key things that a lot of new practitioners will probably think about, as in, like, you asked him, like, when did you know you were going to continue for the black belt, or if that was always the goal?
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people get into jiu-jitsu with the, are you just going to do it until you get enough self-protection, like you feel like you can defend yourself? I feel like he hits on that a little bit.
Yeah, it's a phenomenal conversation. You could tell Sergio is very wise about his words and his thoughts, and it's really nice to talk to people that take the moment to understand, one, what our question is, and then two, to really deliver a valuable answer, not just, spitting something off the top of the head. So that was really nice to talk to him about too. So a couple housekeeping notes. Make sure that you guys go check out our Supercast. It's elbowstight.supercast.com for all our premium content. You get to skip this preamble and our ads in the middle of it. Also, this episode will be coming out on November 1st if you're listening to it the day of. And starting in November, big announcement, we are going to weekly episodes. So from now on, you're going to get an Elbows Tight podcast episode every Monday of the month. So, which is going to be a lot of great. John and I recently had some business come through, and so we're going to switch over to monthly or weekly episodes. So I'm excited about that to give you guys more content. What we plan on doing is 2 episodes of John and I, and then 2 episodes of interviews. And then if people want more interviews, then we'll reevaluate that. But it'll be a good way to just track our journey as well again. So.
Perfect.
Also, make sure you guys go follow us, Elbows Tight, everywhere. On our Instagram, our goal is to have 1,000 followers on Instagram before the end of the year, and we're already almost there, and it's not even November yet, so I think we're going to hit it here relatively soon. So make sure you guys go there, follow us on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, all that stuff. Make sure you guys give us a 5-star review on your favorite podcasting platform, Spotify, Apple, Podchaser, all that stuff. And make sure you share with a friend and share the episode on the story, what your favorite part of this conversation is, and we'll repost it on ours. So, John, you got anything else?
That's it.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for listening and watching at home, and we hope you enjoy. Peace.
Support for Elbows Tight is brought to you by Manscaped, who is the best in men's below-the-waist grooming. Manscaped offers precision-engineered tools for your family jewels. Manscaped recently launched the Ultimate Men's Hygiene Bundle, the Performance Package. Join over 4 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with this exclusive offer for you. 20% off and free worldwide shipping with the code ETP20 at manscaped.com. If my math is correct, that's about 8 million balls.
That's a lot of balls, Johnny. When Manscaped reached out to work with us, I instantly thought, yes, what a deal. I've been using Manscaped products for a while now, and when they mentioned helping out with the podcast, I thought it was a no-brainer. I have the Lawnmower 4.0 now, but I had the Lawnmower 3.0 and absolutely loved it. Also, most people think about Manscaped as just trimmers, but really they have ball deodorant, ball toner, the weed whacker, which is your favorite thing, right, John?
Yeah, I love the weed whacker. Look, I'm about to hit like 45 years old, so I got hair growing out of everywhere now. So it's coming out my ears. I'm like, man, where is that weed whacker? It's definitely my favorite.
Get 20% off and free shipping with the code ETP20 at Manscaped. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com and use code ETP20. Unlock your confidence and always use the right tools to get the job done with Manscaped. Sergio Hernandez, how's it going, man? How you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Hey, no, man. Thank you so much for coming on. Michael Courier set this up, helped us out setting this up, and he said nothing but great things about you. Literally, right after we got done interviewing him, he's like, man, you guys should get Sergio on your show. This guy would be a great interview to talk to. So I'm glad that we were able to make it happen and you were able to come on, man. So thank you for that.
Yeah, he's a really good dude. I tattooed him a couple times, and he sits really tough. Doesn't move around at all when he's getting tattooed. So shout out to him.
Yeah, that's not me. I start getting tattooed and I have to take like a 5-minute break after. And once that adrenaline kick punches in, I'm like, all right, hold on a second. I need like a Snickers, a Coke. Give me like 5 minutes and then we can get going again. That first initial adrenaline dump, I'm not good with that still.
Some people pass out. Some people pass out from that adrenaline dump. But
yeah, I talked to my buddy and he was like, yeah, you know, it's nice because you can recognize it. Some people, they don't even realize it and they'll be getting tattooed and all of a sudden they're just like, out in the chair.
I've had someone get tattooed and I tell them like, hey, if you feel lightheaded, give me the heads up. And they don't say nothing. And then they start sweating and they don't say nothing yet. And then they fall. I've had someone fall flat on their face.
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
that was pretty scary. And then he started choking on his gum.
Oh,
yeah.
no.
And then his girlfriend started screaming like her boyfriend was dying.
Help.
And so
holy crap.
It was pretty theatrical, pretty dramatic, but he survived and we got to finish the tattoo.
What were you tattooing on him? Where were you tattooing on him?
Man, it was like on his wrist. A lot of times it happens on the wrist because, you know, like when you're a little, like in high school and they grab the wrist and then they let it go and then people pass out, like some weird thing that people were doing in high school. It's kind of, I think it's that type of thing, you know?
I'm not going to lie. The wrist is horrible. Like that was... like all the how shallow it is right there and all your tendons and everything like that. When I was getting my wrist tattoo, I was like, this sucks.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to continue with this.
Yeah, it's one of those bad spots for sure.
Yeah, so let's go ahead and get into who you are and everything like that and give people a little bit of a background on who you are as a person.
Okay.
So how'd you get into jiu-jitsu?
Well, I was about 26 years old maybe when I got into it. And I started tattooing and I felt like I was already having some back pains and stuff. So I figured I wanted to do something physical to like, you know, keep me active. And that way when I go do tattoos, I'm not all like stiff, you know? And so I was watching UFC and they kept talking about like BJ Penn being flexible and all that. And I've always been really flexible. So I figured it'd be a good exercise for me. And also when I was young, my dad used to teach me how to box. And so I had about 10 amateur boxing fights when I was little. And then I was probably like 12 or 13. And so I always had like a competitive thing about me. And I liked, you know, martial arts and Bruce Lee and I used to watch boxing with my dad every week. So yeah, I think that's how it happened. First day of jiu-jitsu, it was with Baret Yoshida. And I've only had him as an instructor, and I went from white belt, first day of jiu-jitsu, all the way to black belt with Baret. So, I don't know. Dang. I'm pretty proud about that.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I read somewhere that you were his first white to black.
Yeah, I was the first one. And then it was a trip because when he started, when he came to San Diego from Hawaii, all of his students, all of us were white belts and some blue belts, maybe 1 or 2 purple belts. And he was competing against the best in the world, you know? And so it's always interesting to me that a lot of people think that they have to leave their academy to be with like the best guys in the world to compete at the highest level. And maybe that's true for some people, but I think there's always the exception, you know, like you don't necessarily have to do it that way. You could have a bunch of white belts that you train with and you just sharpen whatever techniques and, you know, you use them to make yourself better.
Yeah, we started our academy, what, 4 or 5 years ago. We've been doing jiu-jitsu, and we were day one white belts at the day our academy opened up, and it was one of our close buddies that started it. And pretty much everyone that is a colored belt in our academy were white belts. And we haven't had a white to black yet in our academy. Our highest ranking is Cody and Billy, who are brown belts.
Yeah.
But pretty much all the blue belts and all the white belts, they've all been straight from homegrown. And it was really interesting. John and I talk about this quite a bit. Like you said, even though we had nothing but a bunch of white belts, I felt like our games, because everyone already knew everyone's tactics and what they knew, right? We're all on the same level field. So it came down to who was being more technical, who was able to execute the techniques better. And I think that really skyrocketed our jiu-jitsu, from the beginning.
Yeah. And you guys do mostly gi or no gi?
Mostly gi. It's like 99% gi right now.
Yeah.
I would like to do some no gi. It's just we don't offer it as much. Not yet.
I enjoy the gi more than the no gi. And for people that are starting jiu-jitsu, I always advise them to start in the gi.
People talk about how gi is boring to watch because it's more technical, it's slower pace because of the grips. Like you can literally grip any part of the body. And no gi right now is just, it's the forefront of jiu-jitsu and entertainment-wise in a lot of people's eyes. But I don't know, man. I love the gi. I love the slower pace. And for, the older people that are in jiu-jitsu, it's much easier from what I understand. I'm only 32, about to be 33. But like John, it's easier for him to control someone. It's easier for him not to get smashed, right?
It is. I like both though. I have no problems practicing both. The things I like about no-gi is it's a little bit easier to get out of things for me, right? Because it's slippery. It's just easier. But I like both. But right now I find no-gi harder just because a lot of the things that I normally would do in a gi I can't do. So it's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I love both, obviously, and I've trained both and competed in both. But as far as like a beginner getting into it, I feel like sometimes people get really excited about the no-gi because, they watched Abu Dhabi or they're a fan of Gordon Ryan or something like that. And that's great. But I think for longevity reasons, I think the gi is better because once you get some spazzy blue or purple belt that just learned how to do heel hooks, and they go for your fucking knee, dude. And they mess up the first time you mess up your knee, and then that's it. Your jiu-jitsu career is over. And career, I don't mean like professional career. I just mean like your jiu-jitsu journey basically is finished, And people get so unmotivated because, I don't know, because they got a messed up knee, And so in the gi, they don't do heel hooks and stuff like that. And so I think that protects people's knees, and I think there's more longevity in that,
Like you mentioned, new practitioners, when they first join jiu-jitsu, their jiu-jitsu journey, one of the first things they look into is like Eddie Bravo and the 10th Planet System. They want to learn rubber guard. They want to learn all these things that are super fancy and technical. But honestly, in my opinion, as a humble blue belt, 3-stripe blue belt, just got my 3rd stripe. No big deal. Pat myself on the back on that one. But I think you should honestly focus more on the gi and passing the guard, close guard, all these like very simple techniques, but in the long run, the simple basic things always will work. You know what I mean? And I feel like a lot of people nowadays, especially like you mentioned, Abu Dhabi, all these EBIs and stuff like that, people see that and they're like, oh, well, I want to do that. But it's like, look, you can't run before you walk. You have to understand these basic techniques in order to get to that level.
Yeah, I love when the higher level competitors have like a really like basically standard moves and they're just world champs. It's just like my favorite thing to watch. And that comes from me being that I have like people say that it's a weird style or whatever, but really flexible style, which obviously I love all that stuff, But like you were saying, I think people need to learn like focus on the basics and appreciate all that stuff, like just like a good triangle, a good arm bar. Yeah.
Absolutely. It won't fail. They won't fail on you when you can get them, if you get them good.
Yeah, man. So sick. I love that.
So let's jump into your Sergio guard a little bit and your flexibility. At what level or at what point in your journey did you discover that you could do this abstract rubber guard side control thing?
I think Barret noticed when I was like, since I was a blue belt, but when I was like a purple belt, he would tell me to check out Imanari and check out a couple of just obscure jiu-jitsu guys, you know, and they were doing just inverted closed guard and these different techniques like that. And so I just started to mess around with whatever Baret was teaching me and trying to add on to it, you know, based on my legs being longer and me being more flexible than most people. And so I came up with that technique where I'm able to hook someone's arm from bottom side, or yeah, and then it just evolved from there. And so I even went up against Jeff Glover at some point. I think I was a brown belt at the time, and I was able to get him to that position, but my system was still like evolving, you know?
Right.
And so looking back at it now, I'm like, wow, that was some sloppy techniques, you know? And I mean, Jeff Glover's like one of my favorites, dude. He's so dope, you know? So I was just happy that I was able to compete against him.
Yeah, that's awesome. Especially because he's like such a big name in the jiu-jitsu community too. I noticed when you posted your recent competition that you did, he commented on it saying most innovative guard or game in the industry or whatever. And I was like, oh, that's so cool, man. Like, how does that feel when you get that recognition?
I love that, man. I love when people, because, you know, I'm like, I've competed with some of the best in the world, man. But I mean, let's put it this way. I've lost to some of the best in the world. So I feel good about that. But just the fact that I'm like a 44-year-old person, dude, that I've been able to like compete against some of the highest level dudes in the world. Like in EBI, I got to compete against Eddie Cummings, and he was like the biggest thing at the time, you know? And out of everyone in EBI, I mean, he still beat me, but I was able to last the longest, you know? Made me feel like...
I was about to say, what's the measurement of success? Because, you know, it's just like, look, he ain't getting me in the first minute. I'm making it to minute two.
So when you watch that match, I think I was doing some pretty interesting technique there. And I don't know. Eddie Cummings was on fire for that era, you know? And so I was able to compete against him, Gio Martinez, Bill the Grill Cooper. And these are like super fights. Like for me, I was just honored that somebody would like give me the phone call and be like, "Hey, we think you'd be a good match against these dudes."
That's rad.
I'm like, damn, of course, man. I want to do that.
So have you competed basically since your white belt days?
Oh yeah, since I was like 3 months in, Baret was like, "Who cares? Just do a competition." Yeah, I've always competed. Every year I compete, and that's basically the only reason that's my only motivation to keep going to jiu-jitsu. If I didn't have a competition coming up, I probably wouldn't be training. You know, I'd train once a month, or I train every other week. I usually want to have a competition lined up for myself. That way I could be at the gym more often.
That gives you like a goal, something to work towards.
I'm always like that. Even in I do artwork, and so even in artwork, if I don't have an art show set up for myself, then I'm not going to be making art, you know, because I'm just like, I'll get to it tomorrow, or I'm not motivated right now, or I'm not inspired right now. Having a deadline always, you know, puts the fire under my ass, dude, and want to like stay active, you know.
That's good.
Yeah.
So what was your first competition like as a white belt?
First competition as a white belt, I think the dude put me in like a fucking headlock, like a high school kid would, you know. And he just squeezed the hell out of my head, and he's going, ah! He has me in a fucking headlock, and I thought that was like some sort of submission, and so like I tapped. I was like, oh, you got me, you know. And I'm like, that's not even, looking back, I'm like, that wasn't even a submission, dude. He was just like, and so yeah, I got beat, and then I had another chance to compete that day, and I think I ended up winning one match or something, but just that one W was like, wow, this is cool, you know, like it's a good feeling.
And then you were hooked ever since, and you just kept competing?
Just kept competing because Baret always competed.
Yeah.
Baret would do every single competition, dude. He would show up to like the smallest tournament, sign up, and be right there with the students competing every single time.
That's cool.
Yeah, so that was like a huge motivation for me, because I'm like, man, my teacher's competing every single time. Why wouldn't I do it, you know?
I've talked about that before. Like, I haven't seen that. We went through a couple instructors at our academy, and I would like to go watch them compete just because I want to see it at their level. You know, it's one thing to teach it to me. I want to see you do it at that level against somebody else that has that same skill. And to date, I haven't had the chance to do that yet just because the local competitions, they either don't go to or they're just not competing right now. So, you know, I've always wanted to see that. I just haven't.
Yeah, I mean, everyone's lifestyle is different. I'm not saying one's better or one's worse, but for me, it was like a huge help to see Baret compete. I mean, Baret's a different type of human being, though. You know, it's like there's very few people like him. So I'm pretty fortunate that I had him as an instructor. I didn't even know who he was when I first started jiu-jitsu. I just happened to walk in. Yeah, I didn't know nothing. I didn't know nothing about jiu-jitsu at period. I didn't even know that dude spoke English because he looks Japanese. He's Hawaiian, you know. And so I think I was like being so naive that I was even talking to him like in like, you know, when you talk to someone that's
like broken
a foreigner.
English.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's probably thinking, this
like,
guy.
Pleasure to meet you, sir. So I thought that this fool wouldn't even speak like English, you know, and then he just looks at me like I'm retarded, and he's like, "Yeah, can you just go down there and like basically shut the fuck up?" I was like, "Oh man, it's so embarrassed."
This is a nice academy. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Bowing and shit.
He's probably like, "Oh no, another one of these."
Yeah.
He's like, I appreciate the courtesy. Could you get in line?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
so that's
I had
what thing Oh, you had dreadlocks?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I had dreadlocks too, and so like the couple days in, one of my homie Milan that's training with us was like, "Yeah, dude, if you want to take jiu-jitsu serious, you gotta cut those stinky ass dreadlocks off your fucking head. It's really gross." so I did, you know. Yeah.
That's so funny. I've never met anyone with dreadlocks.
Yeah, we have. We had a, and it's funny.
Oh,
you say
we
that,
did. Yeah, we did.
Because when I'd partner up with people that had dreadlocks or really long hair, I would feel bad sometimes reaching into their collar because I was grabbing all that hair.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, then I was like, fuck it. They got their hair long. They're just going to have to deal with it because there's
their
no way
fault,
for me to get
dude.
around
They
it.
got to shave their head.
Yeah, same thing with big beards. I've rolled with a guy before where I went straight into his collar, grabbed beard, and I was like, I'm so sorry for this, but it was in the way. Like, I'm not gonna not grab your collar because to be nice to you, but like maybe you should like put it in a ponytail or something.
Yeah. He tapped out to
the
beard hood.
Yeah,
that shit hurts. I can see it.
Hey, no joke. I wouldn't want anyone pulling my hair trying to go for like a cross collar choke or something like that. Like that's just like insult to injury. You're like, God damn, all right, man, sorry. Like,
yeah.
So when it comes to like its lineage and you, because like John mentioned, we've had multiple instructors in our academy in just a short amount of time, and it's no one's fault. It's just, you know, we had like the pandemic, and then people moving, and then values not aligning and whatnot. So just one thing after another led to us getting like a new instructor. When it comes to like lineage, did you have the idea in your head when you first showed up to Baret's academy that you were going to stay there the entire time? Or like how long after you met him were you like, nah, this is it for me, man. This is the one.
My initial goal was just to be able to get to blue belt, and then I was gonna stop doing jiu-jitsu. I figured if I'm able to get my blue belt, I'd be able to like defend myself in the real world situation, you know. And that was really my only goal. You know what my initial goal was? Is to do an MMA fight. It's to do an amateur MMA fight because you're watching UFC and you don't want to be the guy on the fucking couch. So I wanted to be able to be like, whenever I say something like, "Oh, he should have done this, that," I would have been authority. When people are like, "Well, maybe have you ever even been in the cage?" You know, I could be like, "Actually, I did do it." So I wanted to have an amateur MMA match, and I just fell in love with it. You know, so I kept doing it. But yeah, the thing about lineage, it wasn't until I was maybe like, I mean, as soon as I got my blue belt, man, like after that, I just loved and respected Baret so much that I thought to myself, if I wasn't training under Baret, I probably don't want to do jiu-jitsu. I don't know why. I just like, I respect him as a man, and I respect his approach to jiu-jitsu, and I respect him as a leader. You know, I just got really lucky. I just got one of the best leaders, I think, you know, and that's a hard thing to come by. And as a student, it's such a, you putting yourself in such a vulnerable position, you know, because in a sense you're humbling yourself, you're subjugating yourself almost to someone. And so the instructor has a huge responsibility to be a person of like that his students could respect, and that they could look at him as like him or her as like a good leader. And I don't know, man. It's just like a strange dynamic, you know. And sometimes students are so eager and they're such good people that they're willing to subjugate themselves to some person that's a piece of shit, and that bums me out. You know, I don't like that. I'm like, dang, dude, like, for someone to be a black belt, man, and you're just kind of an asshole, like, or you're shady or you do weird shit. Like, I don't know, man. That's another thing that I got lucky, bro. I got lucky.
No, it's true though, because when you first start jiu-jitsu, like you don't fully understand like the black belt and the meaning behind it when you first start. But you know, 2-3 months into it, you start to understand what a black belt is in jiu-jitsu, right? You start feeling the wizardry that comes along with it and whatnot. But then you kind of get blindsided by that black belt, and you don't realize if someone is a good person or not, because you're so naive to the whole community and whatnot, you know?
Yeah.
And so it's hard for people to understand, and I'm sure there's others out there that don't even realize that their instructor probably isn't the best one in the, you know, to be with, or they should leave the academy because it's a toxic environment and things like that. What are some cues that you could give someone to know that, hey, this probably isn't the best place for you?
I would say, however that instructor treats, however he treats the white belts, how he treats the women, how he treats people in the day-to-day life. Also, how he treats his jiu-jitsu. Does he have too big of an ego to where he or they don't want to get, I don't know. Sometimes I feel like certain black belts have too much of an ego where they don't want their students to see them be vulnerable, you know? And so if you notice if there's a black belt and he's able to be vulnerable in front of his students, then I think that's like a good thing, you know? Yeah. And sometimes they don't want to allow themselves to do that because they have this persona that they created for themselves, and they want everyone to look at them like they're some sort of god or something. And it's like, it's just, that's not good. That's a bad environment to be in, I think. And eventually it ends up manifesting in other ways, you know? Yeah.
Agreed.
I bet that's younger practitioners that would affect more. I would assume like someone older in life, you know, late 30s, early 40s, if they're going into the gym, they're not looking at that person like they're a god or something like that, right? You need that mutual respect earned. So I bet it's just a younger person that would probably have to worry about that a lot more.
Agreed.
Yeah,
Especially
for sure.
kids too.
Oh yeah, kids too, man. My favorite instructors are the kid instructors. It's so cool, man. Every time, I never see bad kid jiu-jitsu instructors, man. They always seem like they're running a kindergarten and everyone's having fun. You know?
Hurting kittens. They're just
Yeah, that has to be the funnest jiu-jitsu, man, just to teach little kids. I don't know.
I heard someone talk about teaching kids. You know, it's a good place for future instructors to start, because if you can teach kids these techniques and they can understand and execute it, you can teach an adult easily. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, because kids are all over the place. I watched the kids class. We have two kids class. We have a minions class, and then we have like a kids up to 13 or 14.
Yeah.
And watching the minions, you know, they're like 4 to 8 years old, and I'm like, no way. No way would I be able to do this. Y'all guys, I love my kids. I don't really like other people's kids. Like, no offense.
They've even asked me before. I'm like, I'm not your guy for that. Sorry. I'm not it.
It's like trying to teach them an arm bar.
They want to show you pictures of their kids, and you're just like, oh, God. Because I got 3 kids, you know, but I love my kids, but I don't really care about other people's kids.
Hey, yo, it's the truth, man. It's the truth. So it's funny you mentioned that too, because I'm not a tattoo artist, but I have quite a few I have sleeves and my torso and stuff. And back when I was in San Diego, people would come to me and they're like, "Hey, man, what do you think of my tattoo?" And I'm like, "It's great, man. Like, I'm not a tattoo artist. Why are you asking me my opinion on your tattoo?" Honestly, it sucks, but I don't want to tell you that. It's kind of like if someone would be like, "Hey man, how is that? How's my jiu-jitsu? It's great, man. I'm just a blue belt. I don't know what you want from me.
Right.
I'm not gonna tell you anything else besides that's great."
You're asking the wrong person.
Yeah. Could you go ask our instructor, please? So, do you teach class now at your academy, or are you strictly a student?
I'm just a student. I'm still a student, and I've tried to teach, and then I just end up trying to teach my guard, and it's like nobody wants to learn that shit, dude. It's too like, they're like they'll entertain me. They'll be like, "Oh, this is nice," you know, and I'm like, this person's never gonna try to use this technique in the competition or at their gym. But once in a while, I teach my techniques, you know, and people send me videos like, "Hey, dude, I've been using, you know, Sergio Guard, or I've been using what you taught," and that's the coolest feeling, you know, because I really. Oh, have you noticed that the buggy choke is pretty like popular?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. So a couple years ago, nobody was doing the buggy choke, dude, and now there's like all these tutorials and people making videos. So I really hope that in the future there'll be like some people that use some of the techniques that I feel like I came up with, and they apply it to their jiu-jitsu, and there'll be like some sort of tutorial showing, you know, people that are excited about using my techniques.
Yeah. When did the buggy choke actually start? When was the first time you saw the buggy choke? Because it's funny how these things make a rounds to being popular again, but it's been around for a long time.
I'll be honest with you, the first time I seen it used was my buddy Tyler, and he was doing it at the gym. And I don't know if he invented it or not, but he was the first person that I seen use it. And he was my training partner. And he's a badass, dude. He trains at Entram and TJ right now, and he's a Baret submission student. And he's Canadian, and he got some really cool techniques, man. So, but yeah, that was the first time I seen it, and then I seen the twins use it. And after that, it blew up. You know, everyone wanted to be doing the buggy choke.
Yeah, it's funny watching people do it in MMA right now, because a quick way to get out of it is forearm across the chin and just slam them. You know what I mean? So we were watching an MMA fight, UFC. What was it, a couple of weeks ago?
Yeah.
And a guy, he was a 145er. He tried to hit a buggy choke in the match, and I was like, "That it's not locked in." Like, and all the commentators were like, "Oh my God, what is this submission?" And Joe Rogan was like, "It's a buggy choke." He's like, "But he's not doing it right, so he's not going to get. He's just wasting energy right now."
Yeah.
I was like, yeah. There's like so much space in that buggy choke right now. In your game, do you feel like there's certain techniques, because of your flexibility, that they don't work as well as, you know, other people?
I feel like you got to be flexible to do what I do. Yeah. Is that what you're asking?
No. Are there things that you have a problem doing that other people usually don't, because of like your body's type or like your flexibility? Or is there anything that kind of gets inhibited because of that?
I mean, the only thing that gets inhibited is my wrestling is dog. It's really bad. My wrestling is really bad. I'm like skinny and lanky, and I got asthma and allergies. I'm just a sickly old man, dude. But
Yeah.
but as far as it being a hindrance, yeah, that's the only thing. I ain't got no muscles on me, man. I'm just all skin and bones.
Just pull guard, say whatever, take it. I don't even.
Yeah, exactly. It's not the best for Abu Dhabi ADCC rule set, but
Right.
I want to keep competing though. I did Masters 3. I won one match, and then I lost my second match, but I don't know. I'll always compete, man. The last match against JP that I posted about, I wasn't able to submit him, but I was able to get the win. And I hadn't trained in like a month because I had a staph infection. Then I was on vacation, and the day of, I had food poisoning.
Oh,
It
my
was
gosh.
crazy. Like it was the least confident I've ever been in a match. And he's a lot younger than me, and he trains at Atos. So I love that win. That was one of my favorite wins. I was able to win in front of my son too, so that's really
rad.
cool. Yeah, dude.
Are your kids in jiu-jitsu?
Yeah, my son's 13, and he's been training. But he started getting a little bit lazy with his training, and then he competed and he got smoked.
Ooh.
And so I'm like, hey, dude, you got to start. If you got a competition coming up, that hopefully that's a lesson that you can't be like you know, just part-time in it. You got to like really train to be able to compete properly. But it was a bad example because I just trained. I just competed and was able to win, and I fucking didn't train at all for it. So
like, you try not to be a hypocrite. Like,
yeah.
But that's not. But you should train more.
Yeah.
Any mental preparation before you compete? Music, meditation, anything specific?
Usually, I like to have like a little shot of whiskey before the night before, you know. Yeah. But I want to be as like relaxed as possible. So I just try to think that no matter what, it's not a big deal. It's like, it's not a big deal. Like, I don't know, but I still get anxiety. I still get like all worked up right before the match, and I'm driving to the competition, and I'm like,
why did I
like
sign
being
up
by
for
myself. I like being by myself. Every time I have like my friends that are traveling with me to the competition, I'm already in my own head, you know, about the whole situation. And then to have 3 or 4 other conversations, and then, hey, should we stop here to get food? I don't want to talk to anybody, dude. I want to just listen to my music or to some podcast and just think about how the competition's going to go, you know, like, and it's not like I'm all like terrified, but it's just like, it's like smoking too much weed or something. You just like too many thoughts in your head, you know, like
Get paranoid.
Yeah. I just want to be left alone for the most part.
What's on your playlist?
Oh man, my playlist is all over the place, man. I have so many things on there, but if I had one go-to thing, it's probably like Griselda Records or something like West Side Gun and that type of stuff, you know. I don't know. They just put out so many good albums lately.
Do you just put your headphones on when you get to the competition and still zone out? Or are you kind of like warming up by yourself, doing flow rolls? Like how does that once you get to the competition? How does your preparation continue?
When I get to the competition, I usually just I want to hear the environment, and I want to hear people screaming, and I want to hear the jiu-jitsu match in front of me, and I've never worn headphones at competition, and I don't usually do like practice roll before the competition either. I'm usually just stretching out a lot, just stretching out. And then right when they're like in the bullpen, that's when I start like jumping around and start getting amped up, you know?
Football is back, baby. We're back to seeing Mahomes sling beautiful balls all over the field. And your friends at Manscaped are here to help you sling your beautiful balls all season long. With Manscaped's state-of-the-art tech, we'll have your weapon looking more loaded than the AFC West. Football may be rough, but your ball care doesn't have to be with Manscaped. Join the 6 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped by going to manscaped.com for 20% off plus free shipping with the code ETP20.
At Whiteout and the clearest duo in the league, the ultimate premium body wash and ultra premium 2-in-1 shampoo and conditioner with their rugged scent. They attracted both the ball and all the ladies in the crowd. Plus, these two leave your skin and scalp feeling more hydrated, and that means plays on the field and less water breaks. You know what I'm saying? On defense, there's only one thing you need: the aluminum-free, ultra-premium deodorant. With the refined cologne quality fragrance, it keeps sweat and the locker room scents from making any ground. Plus, it dries clear, so the opponent won't even know what hit them. Kind of like the ball deodorant.
This has got to be a Super Bowl winning roster. Please don't take my word for it. Go to manscaped.com and get 20% off and free shipping with the code ETP20. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com when you use the code ETP20. Manscaped, for turning your player into an MVP.
Thanks, Manscaped.
So let me ask you, is the goal submission?
The goal is always submission, but it was always submission. And now the last couple of years, I'm like, let me try to figure out to get a W one way or another, man, you know? Because I used to hate when people would get like an advantage and then they would stall. And that's just been like my jiu-jitsu competition career has always been like someone getting an advantage and just stalling out. And everyone's so like, I don't know, man. Like, I don't like it. It bums me out. It really does bum me out that's what competition is. Like, even in boxing now, you know, everyone like tries to win a round. Mm-hmm. And back in the days, I mean, I remember watching boxing and fools would like go toe to toe. And it was still technique, you know, but they're trying to show who's the better boxer. And in jiu-jitsu, it's not really, I mean, the essence of jiu-jitsu is getting to a submission, right? And so it's a little bit frustrating to see so many competitions won by stalling or by advantage. And no one ever like calls it out like it's something negative. And I think, I don't know, man, like I want to have like a style that I can have pride in, you know, that, and I don't know, I don't want to win like that. I don't ever want to win that way. I want to have an interesting match, and I want to try to be going for the submission, you know?
Yeah, I saw one of your matches, and it was you're going against this guy, and I think he had braids or something like that. White guy, he looked a little muscular, but and you were just like, you're like, bro, just take me down, like let's go, like I don't even care, like here's my leg, like let's go, like why are we standing here hand fighting, standing up, like people don't want to see this. Like I felt like you were like pressuring him to do something because you wanted to entertain. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't, you weren't there to be like, I'm trying to win this. You're like, I want to win, but I like we're a crowd of people are around us watching. Like, let's stop the hand fighting. Is that kind of like where your mindset is when you're in the match?
It's always my mindset, but like I said, nobody gets held accountable for these things anymore. So like, if I compete, I want to accept the rule set now, and I want to like not be complaining about it. Like, oh, this guy ran the whole time, or this guy. I think in my younger days, I used to be pissed off about that type of thing. Now it's like, that's okay, man. He just wanted his W. But it's still kind of a cheesy win. It's like, dude, he just ran the whole time, got 1 point. And man, so that video that you seen, I used to have to do that a lot, man. I'm like, there's an audience here, man. We're here to perform. We're here to like, we should be putting on a show for these people, you know? And so every time I have a boring match, it's really like embarrassing for me. I want to have an exciting match.
So
And
you're a big boxing fan, right? So was I.
yeah,
And we're about the same age, so we were probably watching the same boxing. Sugar Ray Leonard used to be my neighbor in Baton Rouge, by the way.
nice.
But anyway, I used to feel the only time I felt cheated in sports is when I spent all my hard money for a Mike Tyson fight, and it was over in 30 seconds.
Yeah,
Whatever you set the pay-per-view stuff, and it was like $100 to order that. And I was like, no, 30 seconds, the fight was over. It used to piss me off.
I remember that, dude. I remember that. But hey, at least he knocked him out, though.
I know.
He got the
I was
knockout.
like, but 30 seconds. But man,
I feel that
those
way
are
about
unbelievable
Mayweather. I feel cheated when I watch Mayweather.
Yep.
I'm like, it's so bad. It's so bad to watch.
Yeah, it's like point fighting in jiu-jitsu, like you said, right? Like, one of the guys that we interviewed in the past, he's a big competitor also, and he made a good point of if you always win by submission or you finish the match, there is no, oh well, he won by points, but you know X, Y, and Z, right? Like if you're always hunting for the submission, like you said, then there's no debate. Like you won fair and square. Like Mike Tyson always knocked the guys out. Like he barely ever went to the judges, you know what I mean? Or Mayweather, he's literally fighting because he just wants more money. You know what I mean? He gets paid $100 million per round, so he's like, whatever, I'm going to make this last as long as possible. But it's not like, it's like, okay, he's in a Philly block, he's just going to shoulder slide, he's just going to throw a couple jabs, dip out, and you know what I mean, run to the ropes, and it's like, oh, it's the same combination every single time, you know what I mean? And it gets boring as and even some people in MMA are doing that too. Like you mentioned, they're just trying to win the rounds.
Yeah, that fight. What was that fight we watched maybe a month and a half ago? It was like the boringest fight I ever watched.
I think it was the Amanda Nunez, Carlos Bezosa championship fight. Did you see that one?
It was bad.
Yeah, I was like, no.
I'd rather watch someone lose. I'd rather watch someone lose. I'll be a lifelong fan if someone went out there. That's why I like the Diaz brothers. You know, win or lose, they're gonna like go out there to fight. You know.
Yep.
So what is it like being in like San Diego, which is like the mecca of, you know, especially competitive jiu-jitsu right now with Atos out there, Alliance, Kino Cornelius' gym's just like an hour away. What is it like being out there? Do you get to drop in at other schools, or do you kind of just stay
I went to Keenan's. I went to Keenan school before, and I feel really blessed basically to be out here in San Diego, because even in the small competitions, you have people from Atos. You know, Atos is like one of the most important schools in jiu-jitsu, I think. You know, some really incredible competitors and a good history to it. And there's so many academies out here, man. Yeah, it is a mecca. Why do you think that is? Is it because the Brazilians love Southern California?
That's all I can think of. I think it's the closest you can get to Brazil in the States, and it's a
Yeah,
beautiful area. You know what I mean? It's not LA, even though it's getting bad now, like a little bit northern of San Diego. But
yeah,
back in the day when I was there in 2009, 2011, there was like barely any traffic. You know what I mean? Like the only time there was traffic on like the 5 was during rush hour. It's like a super chill city. There's so much to do around the area. And I don't know. I feel like that's probably why. And, one person went there, and then, like here we have gyms popping up all over the place. And down there, Autos and things like that. I think they were just like, all right, well, he's there, so we should go there and, kind of like start building up as well. That's just my opinion, though.
yeah. Man, there's so many good schools, man. Um, the local competitions are nuts. It's really sick.
Yeah,
Sorry, that's
I would hate to compete in San Diego, to tell you the truth. Just a bunch of killers down there, man.
it's tough, dude. And do you guys do competitions?
I've only done one.
I haven't
Yeah.
competed yet, not yet, and I'm getting to the point now where I competed in like CrossFit and weightlifting and stuff like that
Oh,
when I was in my mid 20s and late
that's
20s.
cool.
And thank you. It was a lot of fun. I had a blast competing. I'd never had that competitive mindset of like I gotta win, I gotta kill, and everything like that. But I kind of
Yeah.
like burned myself out on competing through those my 20s because I did it quite a bit. And so now I'm like, I don't really want to go hours on end to a local competition, roll with 4 or 5 people, and then risk losing my 401k because some guy goes crazy on a Kimura, snaps my arm or something like that. So that's like there's my mindset now is completely different.
Yeah.
Because there's more to lose if I get hurt because someone is going buck ass wild on me.
Yeah, no, for sure. And there's probably less competitions where you're at than in San Diego,
Yep.
right?
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I think there's like maybe one a month, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah. Over here, there's competitions like all the time. So I was fortunate enough to not really have to do much to like, it's just like a 10-minute drive and you get to compete, win or lose. I get to go to work afterwards and everything's okay.
Yeah.
I
Well,
didn't risk anything.
when you mentioned earlier, you talked about how you've been tattooing for how long?
I started my apprenticeship about 20 years,
Oh,
20
okay.
years ago. Yeah.
So you started jujitsu basically around the same time you started tattooing.
Yeah.
That's
Wow.
cool.
A little bit after, but yeah.
Do you feel there is any correlation between jujitsu and tattooing as like an art form, as a creative person, right? Like you obviously you do incredible tattoos. I love your style. I'm a traditional guy. All mine are like neo-traditional tattoos. And so I got
Thanks.
stars and dots and on my arms and everything like that, like an old school sailor. Do you feel like there's any correlation between the arts?
Yeah, I think the learning curve is very similar. You gotta, and also the fact that in jujitsu you gotta be able to humble yourself to be able to like advance to the next level. I think in tattooing it's the same thing. If you just started tattooing and you think you're a hot shot right off the bat, then you're never gonna progress. And so even me now, I've been tattooing for a long time, but I still feel like I'm getting better and better. And I think in the next 10 years is when I'm going to be doing my best tattooing. So as soon as you don't wake up motivated to become better, then I feel like you're just going to start going downhill. Yeah. So I started off as a white belt in tattooing and I thought I thought myself as that too. And so no one's going to give you like a belt in tattooing. It's just in tattooing, everyone's constantly telling you how amazing you are, no matter how
Right.
horrible you are. And so the difference between jujitsu and tattooing is that in jujitsu, you can't freaking lie about it. And you could think you're the greatest blue belt ever, but if you haven't competed and beat anybody, then I don't know. It's like, show me, prove to me why you're a good blue belt.
Yeah, and to that point too, in tattooing, there's always going to be someone that is willing to get tattooed by you. You know what I mean? This is why you have like guys that have machines at their house and they tattoo their friends. They have tattoo parties and you know what I mean? And they're like, oh, bro, look at this. Look, my buddy did this sick tattoo on me. And it's like, well, you're just feeling their ego, right? Like this guy legit thinks like he's a good artist, you know, shading with a single needle and like just horrible lines and, you know, just like trying to do photorealism and whatnot. But in jiu-jitsu, yeah, you can't do that. Like someone is going to feel your ego, but you could literally, John could be like, man, you're really good. And like, thanks, bro. I appreciate that. I go to my next roll and I get smashed the entire time. You know, there's no moment of or supremacy throughout the entire time. You know what I mean? It's just, you're always going to have someone bigger and better than you.
And how do you feel about when you roll with higher belts? Are you trying to take them out? I mean, obviously, right?
I don't know, man. Tell you the truth, John and I
know they don't like it when you wrist lock them.
You got in trouble for that?
He did.
I mean, I guess.
Yeah, he wrist locked our black belt when he first showed up at the academy, and he looked at John mid wrist lock, stopped and said,
the roll.
Oh, so we're doing prison rules.
Yeah. Then whoop my ass for the rest of it.
See, to me, I don't know. I feel as a lower belt, there's a fine line of me not wanting to be overly aggressive with a higher belt to the point to where they don't want to roll with me. You know what I mean? Because I feel there's a lot of value in rolling with upper belts. But at the same time, I feel that when I do get to a position where I possibly had a submission or something to show a better skill set of mine, I kind of over respect the belt. You know what I mean? Like I'll stop and I'll just kind of like hang out there. And
is that for only for black belts, or is that also for like? Would you do the same for purple belts?
No, I think it's just black belts.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's like a psychological thing to me, and I don't know why I do it, because every black belt I ever taught to, they say don't do that. They're like, you're only hurting yourself. Like if you have a submission, you should 100% go for it. Like just because I have a black belt doesn't mean that you can't submit me. You know, if you do something right, then you should capitalize on it. So there's like this like internal battle when I roll with black belts on how hard should I go? Should I actually fight for a submission? You know, I don't know why. I don't know why there is, but that's my honest truth, you know?
Yeah, for sure. And I feel like if I was rolling with the older black belt, like if someone in their 60s or something and their black belt, even if I was like a really good purple belt or brown belt or something, I wouldn't try to tap out the black belt. You know, it's like it'd be kind of weird, man. Just light roll, you know, have fun with it, and I don't know. If it's like a young black belt, then I'm trying to smash. I'm trying. I want to kill him.
Yeah.
But
for me, a lot of it's the learning style. If I'm rolling with a higher belt, mainly a black belt, and they're taking it real easy on me, or they're just letting me work, I have a hard time. I actually have a hard time with that. I would rather them just crush me and kill me, because that's the best way I learn.
Yeah.
So if you keep crushing me with the same thing, I'm going to learn how to stop it. That's the way I like.
Hopefully.
Yeah. Hopefully.
Not my technique.
You'll put me in there, I'll be like, I don't even know. I just do whatever you want, man. Like, but no, I think looking back though, when I was a white belt, I was 25, 26 years old. No, 20 in my later 20s. I think I was like 20, 27, 28, and I was in the best shape of my life, athletic. You know what I mean? And so I was using my strength and athleticism a lot as a white belt. And I was told quite a bit that, hey, you're kind of being too much. You're being too much. And it was hard for me to understand at those moments of what does this mean? What do you mean being too much? Like you tell me after the roll, you don't tell me when it's happening. You know, so it's hard for me to understand exactly. Like you're like, hey, by the way, that you're going a little too hard. Like, okay, but this would be a good point for anyone when they first start. If someone's constantly telling you like, hey, you're being a little too rough, before you start rolling with them, ask them like, hey, in the middle of the roll, stop me when you feel that I'm being too much. So I know in my brain, okay, that's what they're talking about. That moment, it was being too spazzy or I was using too much strength. That way I can go back to the drawing boards and be like, okay, now I know that when I do this, someone doesn't like it. You know, but don't completely take it out of your game, because they do need to learn how to defend against that also.
Yeah, you know what? Now I don't know if they were right saying all that years ago, Because honestly, what they were saying is if Travis was in a superior position, right, and we'll say he's doing a Kimura or whatever, and he would do it at his speed, right, which wasn't really fast, just Travis was really strong.
Yeah.
And I think the person on the other end of it's like, it's too much, or too strong. Really, it's not. You should have just tapped like earlier.
Right.
Like don't wait until it's too late. Is now I realize that. That's all it was.
I agree.
That's why I didn't have a problem rolling with you. Yeah.
It's really interesting the like social dynamic of the role. You know, who you rolling with, how hard you, what speed, and you're kind of just, there's not like a actual conversation about these things. You're just kind of feeling it out, and you're feeling these different people, different person's personalities, you know, and what they want to do, whether you're going to disregard the pace that they want, or if they're going to go crazy and you got to like not even address it. The way you're going to address it is by going harder as well. So I've always enjoyed trying to figure out that dynamic, you know, like when you're visiting an academy, does the instructor want to roll with you? Does he not want to roll with you? Or is everyone in the school looking at the academy looking at you like they want to kill you? I've had that before too. I'm like a guest somewhere and like they try to put me through the fucking meat grinder, you know, like that's kind of weird too. But
yeah, there's so many unspoken social dynamics when it comes to jiu-jitsu that I don't know why it's not put out in the forefront more. But, you know, to your point, there's also these people out there when we like to drop into schools because we like to interview people in person. But we haven't done it in a while because we've been so crazy busy and whatnot. And with the invention of like, you know, Zoom and Riverside, it's a lot easier to still talk to incredible people like you and you know, get these conversations going. But when we do drop in at schools, yeah, sometimes I dropped in at a local school and I was rolling with another white belt when I was a white belt. And this guy was on the sideline, I think it was like a purple or brown belt, was coaching this white belt when he was rolling with me. And I was like, look, dude, I'm not here to dojo stomp or like prove that I'm a superior white belt. I'm doing this because one of my buddies is a black belt here. And he said, you come to my academy and train, I'll do your podcast. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I'm getting like coached, like my opponent's getting coached and like trying to smash me and whatnot. And I'm sitting there thinking, dude, you're going to do whatever you want because I am not down for this. This is not what I'm here for. I promise. Like, go ahead. He got me with an Ezekiel, right? I wasn't really fighting. I didn't know at the time. I didn't know how to defend an Ezekiel. But after he got the Ezekiel on me, the guy on there was like, yeah, that's right. I was like, bro, what? I don't understand what's going on here, man. Like, this is so weird to me.
And he said he wouldn't go on your podcast unless you went to his academy.
Yeah. He said, "Hey, come drop in. I'll do your podcast." And I was like, "All right, that's fine. Like, I'll go there and hang out and learn some technique and whatnot." And what's funny is when he rolled with me too. He's a black belt, and after our roll, he got me with like a knee bar within like 10 seconds.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Obviously, and he told me afterwards, like, "Yeah, I could tell that." Which was so weird to me. He's like, yeah, I kind of went a little bit harder and faster on you because I felt like you were going to try to be more aggressive on me. And I was like, no, why would I do that? I'm not even here for that. Man, like, when did I ever give you that like feeling, you know?
Yeah. Jeez.
So how do you how do you like approaching dropping in at other academies?
I didn't do that till I was like a brown belt, maybe. I never went to another kid because I'm like I said, I'm older. When I started, there wasn't all these super fights, all these different shows. It was like IBJJF, there was Naga, and there was like Grappler's Quest. And there wasn't, no one had Instagram and all that shit. So there was like, you didn't know what everybody was doing. So I didn't want to go drop in at a school and it might be people that I'm going to compete with in the future. And I didn't want them to see any of my techniques. So I just wouldn't visit anywhere. And I have good training partners. So if I'm going to do jiu-jitsu, I want to contribute to my team by being there to every class that I can be at. And so, I don't know. I'm a little bit different when it comes to that. Every time I see my buddies that like, hey, why aren't you at the team class today, dude? You were dropping in over there, you know, getting all this other information and rolling with these other people, but we needed you here because we got a competition coming up and we need as many people in the gym as possible. and you're over here spreading yourself thin, going to all these other academies because you want to drop in and meet people and all this other shit. Like, meet people at a bar, dude. Like, I don't know. But I don't know. That's just me. Now I'm a little bit different. I like to go visit and I like to meet other people. And since I'm competing less, I want to go to other academies and just feel different style of jiu-jitsu, and it makes me feel good, you know? So that was before, and this is me now. So I evolve, man. And I change.
Yeah, you become more mature even in your jiu-jitsu journey, and you start, you know, accepting things that you thought were not cool back then, right? And it's like,
yeah.
Like it, and then you're like, I don't really care, man. Now I enjoy meeting other people. I enjoy rolling with other people. And
yeah, 100%, dude.
Do you feel that people that don't compete, you know, because I think it's like the stat is like what 70-something% of people don't ever compete in martial arts. Do you feel dropping in at other academies is kind of like a good substitute for that?
Yeah. Oh, for sure. To know where you're at, 100%. Yeah. And I like doing that now because I don't compete as much. So I like, but then I think you're giving yourself a false sense of like where you're at when you do that because of those social dynamics that we were talking about earlier. A lot of times you're like, oh, heck yeah, I was able to tap out that purple belt, dude. And you're like, well, maybe that day that purple belt wasn't top of his game. You're not in a competition. And maybe he was trying to go easy on you. And there's all these like little things that come into it, you know? So it is helpful, but I feel like you can't really get a sense of where you're at until you actually compete, you know? That's just, I feel like it's a truer sense of where you're at. Yeah.
Great. Now I got to compete, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, you should do it, man. It's fun, you know, but like you said, everyone's lifestyle is different. So it's hard. It's hard to like have one blanket approach.
Right. Right. You got to be flexible in your journey.
Yeah, for sure, man. And for me, my main thing that I want to advocate for is for people to be able to do jiu-jitsu when they're older. And so I want people to go at a pace in their jiu-jitsu journey where they're still doing jiu-jitsu in their 60s and 70s. And so sometimes when you go too hard on the competition aspect of it, and that becomes too much a part of your jiu-jitsu journey, as soon as you're not able to compete in jiu-jitsu, then you just fall off and never really train again. You know, I've seen that happen as well. So it's just finding that right balance, I think.
What tips do you have? You got any?
Tips for people having longevity, I would say focus on the gi and try to just try to keep a good pace. Just try to keep a good pace. Sometimes people fall in love with jiu-jitsu so much that they want to be there every single day. And maybe that's not the right pace for you. Maybe you should do 3 times a week or something, and be humble and respect the lower belts, and then get some motivation from the lower belts, you know. I think the biggest motivation for me is seeing the white belts show up and be so excited to learn techniques, you know. And sometimes I walk in there and I'm jaded and I'm like, another day in jiu-jitsu, whatever. And then I see some young dude that's not even a young guy, but I'm saying someone that's new to jiu-jitsu and they're so excited. That's super motivating for me, you know. So I would just stay inspired, you know.
I'll try to explain this the best way I can, but you're a good example of this. So we're the same age. You're a black belt. I'm a blue belt. Total different skill set, right? One thing I've noticed is I started right when I was about to turn 40, right? So if I'm comparing myself to my instructor now, me and him are the same age. I find that I have a harder time rolling or sparring with people that are in their mid-20s, early 30s that might outweigh me by 40, 50, 60 pounds, right? And then I'll watch my instructor roll with him, and I'm like, man, you know, just he has such the skill level and the technique where he can offset all of that. And I don't have that yet. So I just think for someone that's an older practitioner, just keep that in mind. Just, you know, if you're going to see somebody that's a higher belt at the same age as you, you cannot try to, like, compare yourself to how they're dealing with the same roles. It's just different skill sets.
Yeah, and I think that's why competition is really helpful too, and it's motivating because it gives you a goal. Like, I'm going to be the best 45-year-old white belt.
Right.
You know, so you always want to be the best at your age and your skill level. Like,
that is what I noticed the one time I competed. I said it was nice to just go up against people that were the same age, same weight limit. That was nice.
yeah, man, it's so sick. That's a beautiful thing about jiu-jitsu, man. Like, you don't get to do that in any other sport. You know, they don't have. Yeah, it's like IBJJF. You know, they have the world competition. That's Master Worlds. You can go blue belt and compete against the other most like the best blue belts in their 50s or whatever, you know. And
Right.
it's, I don't know, man, it's so sick. You got Mario Lopez out there competing. You
Tom
got,
Hardy.
you know, it's like so many. Anthony Bourdain won medals. What's that guy? Tom Hardy or something? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. There's a long list of them, man. And everybody is treated equal in competition.
Yep. Doesn't matter your sex, your sexual orientation, religion, anything like that. When you both step on the mat, there's a mutual combat respect that, you know, like this, you guys are there to find out who's the best in this discipline. And it's really cool because there's not a lot of other things in life where, you know, that community is as strong. You know what I mean? Like it's cool to build that relationship with someone going through the hardship of jiu-jitsu, or building that bond and that trust of the tap. You know what I mean? I feel like the understanding of what a tap means is much beyond of you're letting them know, like, oh, you got me. Like there's more psychological to it, and building a friendship with it. Like, hey, I know this person will release me from this hold once I give them the tap. You know what I mean? Like there's that trust that's built there. And unfortunately, there's a lot of people out there, especially on social media, that'll post funny videos of someone tapping and then them holding on a little bit longer, or accidentally putting a student to sleep during a technique or something like that. And it's really hard to build that trust back for that lower belt, you know, because most techniques are done on lower belts, right? So if they're on social media now getting made fun of because they passed out during a choke or a bow and arrow, something like that, there's a lot of respect that needs to be rebuilt there.
Yeah, especially even in competition, sometimes people don't let go of arm bars or heel hooks,
or crank them like 0 to 1,000 real quick.
Yeah, dude, that's really fucked up, man. And I don't want to do that shit. That's all bad.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
You know, I'm healthy. I'm still here, so, and I would never like do that to anybody.
That's cool, man.
Yeah.
Well, John, you got anything else, man?
Can you give us one tip for someone that's brand new to the jiu-jitsu lifestyle? Something that would help them with their journey?
I would say do steroids and do a lot of steroids, and you're gonna get really strong, and you're gonna be able to beat everyone.
That would be pure entertainment factor.
All white belts walking in looking like Gordon Ryan.
No, I'm just playing. No, just be humble, man, and be a good listener. I would say, no, shut your mouth. Shut up. For all the young students out there, just shut up, dude. Like, stop commenting every technique, everything that the teacher's teaching. You have something to say. It's like, bro, just tone it down. Like, just try to do the technique. Or just, I don't know. That's it. Just try to be a good student. Try to be a good student. Try to be humble and try to be quiet.
Can you elaborate on what makes a good student to you real quick?
I think a good student is someone that's able to humble themselves. You know, that's the most important thing. And trusting your instructor. But, you know, you got to find a good person that you can trust, right? And so also when the instructor's teaching the technique, try to pay as much attention to the details. And I think that's the hardest part of being a student, is you just like, you don't really understand why that arm has to be there and why you got to grab the sleeve this way or that way. But your instructor is saying something very specific. So you got to try to understand these small details and just trust your instructor. Even though it doesn't make sense in your head, just trust your instructor, you know. and know your left from your right. A lot of people, they're like, use your left hand. And then Baret will be like, is that your left hand? Oh, well, that's your fucking right hand. Why the fuck are you using your left hand? I don't know. It seems like that people get like nervous and they forget their left from their right, you know?
That's funny.
Yeah.
Hey, Sergio, well, thank you so much for coming on the show today, man. This was a blast, a great conversation. I feel there was a lot of good nuggets in there for the beginning practitioner to, you know, have fun in their journey about competing and, you know, longevity and whatnot. So thank you so much for your insight.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys having me, man. It's good talking to you. And when you guys come to San Diego, please come visit.
Absolutely.
And stop by the tattoo shop. I'll hook you guys up too, man.
Absolutely. Hey, so if people want to follow you, where can people see you?
Well, my Instagram is Splurgeo, SPLURGEO, and that's usually where I post all my jiu-jitsu and my tattoos and stuff like that. And that's about it, you know? Yeah, I got a movie coming out. It's called Hellbound Boys.
Saw that.
I wrote and directed it. So if you guys see that out and about, try to, you know, try to watch it whenever it comes out next year.
Absolutely, man. All right, guys. Thank you so much, Sergio, for coming on. Thank you, John. Remember, no oil checks here.
Loose.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Peace.